taking a bit of time, so if we put a 4-minute limit on, we can hopefully get a few more people in. And Craig Whitaker.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And if I may, I'd like to briefly speak in support of the government and against making misogyny a hate crime, which of course is Lord's Amendment number 72. And I think it's fairly safe to say that everybody understands the strength of feeling regarding adding sex and gender to hate crime laws, not least from my own mailbox, and of course the debate here this evening has shown that. However, I feel unable to support this amendment in light of the Law Commission's conclusions, and it is them, the independence of them and their independent review of hate crime laws, which they did in December just last year. And what they said, that such a step would potentially prove more harmful than helpful, both to victims of violence against women and girls, and also to efforts to tackle hate crime more broadly. Their words, not mine. It specifically noted that adding these characteristics may make the prosecution of crimes disproportionately affecting women and girls, such as sexual offences and domestic abuse, much more difficult. Now, this arises, Mr. Deputy Speaker, as establishing whether a hate crime has occurred would require additional proof to be demonstrated in court, and where the Law Commission notes, by contrast, that it might be practically difficult to prove a sex or gender-based aggravation in the context of violence against women and girl crimes that usually takes place in private. As a result, it also later notes that we are particularly concerned about the potential for this to make some sexual offence prosecutions much more difficult. So, not put in the too difficult box, it will just work against women and girls who are the victims. Now, the Law Commission subsequently recommended against adding these characteristics to the law. Now, given these and other potential unintended consequences, as we've heard this evening, organisations responding to the consultation are supporting the Law Commission's review opposed to adding these characteristics to the law. It's also worth noting, when members come to the decision today, that the Lord's Amendment seeks to mitigate the most serious risks identified in what I've just spoken about by excluding certain offences from any hate crime designation, including sexual offences and domestic abuse. However, again, the Law Commission similarly identifies such models would not be helpful, noting that this would then make the addition of the characteristics largely tokenistic. Again, their words, not the Minister's. Noting that this would then, and it become tokenistic by excluding those most serious offences would frequently harm women and girls. It also noted the exclusion of these offences risks suggesting they are by default less serious or not rooted in misogynistic hostility, and would treat sex and gender unequally to other characteristics in the scope of hate crime laws. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I therefore share the Law Commission's concern that adding sex and gender to the hate crime laws in any form could prove unacceptably counterproductive and work against women and girls.
You're a